transforming people's lives. The Kingdom Sanctuary of Eden and Outreach Ministries. With our clothing bins all over, we're collecting clothes and shoes and giving it out to all in the communities, in the cities, and all over the world. Wherever there's a need, the Kingdom Sanctuary of Eden is there to fulfill it. Please continue all your donations, whether it be clothes, food, shoes, or monetary donations, so we can take care of God's people all over the world. The donation starts with you. Let's build the kingdom together. Why everyone feels tired, angry, and lost. The quiet confession. Let me say something out loud that most people never admit. You are not just tired. You are not just angry. You are not just lost. Something has been taken from you. Not suddenly, not dramatically, slowly, quietly. You wake up tired even after sleeping. You feel irritable by things that never used to bother you. You feel disconnected from your work, from people, sometimes even from yourself. And you keep telling yourself, you should be grateful. You tell yourself, other people have it worse. You even tell yourself to push through. But underneath all of that, there's a quieter truth. You are exhausted because nothing feels like it means anything anymore. You are angry because something feels deeply wrong, and no one seems willing to name it honestly. And you feel lost because the map you were handed no longer matches the world you are living in. Most people think this is a personal failure. They think they are weak. They think they are unmotivated. They also think they are broken. They are not. What they are really experiencing is disorientation. When a person can tell what's wrong or what's worth striving for, what's worth sacrificing for, what's worth building toward, their energy drains. Their patience shortens. Their anger rises. Not because they're immoral, but because human beings cannot live without meaning. For a long time, you could endure hardships because you believed it was for something. A future maybe, a family, a calling, a life that made sense. When that belief erodes, even small problems feel unbearable. And here's the part almost no one tells you. Feeling tired, angry, and lost is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's instead a sign that something is wrong with the environment you are being asked to survive in. And until that truth is named, people will keep blaming themselves for wounds they didn't cause. This episode is about naming that truth, because clarity doesn't just calm the mind, it gives strength back. Why tired is not about sleep. Most people think they are tired because they are not sleeping enough. So they try to fix it. They go to bed early, They change their routine. They take supplements. They rest on weekends. And some of that helps. But for many people, it doesn't fix the exhaustion. They wake up tired even after sleeping. They rest, but they don't recover. Because the tiredness they are feeling is not physical. It is existential. It's not the exhaustion that comes from doing too much. It's the exhaustion that comes from doing things that don't feel like they matter. Human beings can endure an enormous amount of effort when they believe it's for something. People work long hours to build a future. They sacrifice sleep for their children. They endure hardship for a purpose they believe in. Meaning creates energy. But when meaning disappears, even small tasks feel heavy. You don't just feel tired, you feel drained. And that difference, it matters. Because sleep restores the body. Meaning restores the soul. When people lose a sense of why they're doing what they're doing, their energy leaks away. They go through the motions. They perform competence. They keep up appearances. But internally, they are depleted. This is why burnout is not solved by vacations. You can rest your body for a week, come back, and feel just as empty. Because nothing changed about what you are returning to. The exhaustion comes from living inside systems that demand effort but offer no meaning in return. Work that feels disconnected from purpose. Culture that measures worth by productivity or attention. A future that feels uncertain or unattainable. When people can't see a future they believe in, their motivation collapses. Not because they are lazy, but because hope is a source of energy. Take hope away and effort feels pointless. This is why people say things like, "I'm tired of trying." They don't mean they hate effort. They mean they no longer trust that effort leads anywhere good. And here's the quiet danger. When exhaustion becomes normal, people start medicating it with distraction, with stimulation, even with noise, with substances, with constant scrolling. Not because they are weak, but because they are searching for relief. What they actually need is not more rest. They need a reason to care, a reason to build, a reason to endure. Without meaning, sleep becomes maintenance. With meaning, sleep becomes restoration. And until that difference is understood, people will keep blaming their bodies for what is actually a crisis of purpose. You may be asking why anger feels permanent. A lot of people think they are angry because they are bitter, think they have become negative. They think something inside them has hardened, but most of the time, that's not what's happening. Anger is rarely the first emotion. Anger is usually a second emotion. It comes after something else. Most often, anger is grief that has nowhere to go. It's the feeling you get when something important has been lost and no one acknowledges it. When something was promised and quietly withdrawn. when effort was made and meaning never arrived, when rules change after you followed them, when sacrifice was demanded without honor. That kind of loss doesn't always look dramatic. There's no funeral for it, no public language for it, no moment where the world stops and says, yes, something real was taken from you. So the grief stays unprocessed. And when grief stays unprocessed, it hardens. It turns into irritation. It turns into resentment. It turns into anger. This is why anger feels permanent. Because the loss was never named. Many people are angry because they did what they were told. They studied. They worked hard. They delayed gratification. They tried to be responsible. And the life they were promised never materialized. Well, not in the way they expected. Not in the way they were taught to expect. That creates a quiet rage. Not explosive rage, but simmering rage. The kind that leaks out in small moments. Snapping at people you love, feeling irritated by strangers, feeling constantly on edge, feeling like everything is an insult. People think this means they've become cruel, but more often it means they're grieving a future that quietly disappeared. And here's the dangerous part. Modern culture doesn't allow grief. It allows outrage. It allows performance. It allows blame. But it does not allow people to say, I am angry because something I believed in no longer exists. I am angry because I feel cheated. I am angry because the story I built my life on collapsed. So instead of processing grief, people are handed enemies. They're told who to blame. They're told where to aim their anger. And anger feels better than grief. Anger feels active. Grief feels vulnerable. Anger feels powerful. Grief feels exposing. So people choose anger, not consciously, but emotionally. This is why anger spreads so easily. It gives people a place to put their pain. It gives them a language for their disappointment. It gives them a sense of control when they feel betrayed. But anger doesn't heal grief. It only disguises it. And over time, that disguise becomes exhausting. Because staying angry takes energy. It keeps the nervous system tense. It keeps the mind scanning for threats. It keeps relationships fragile. This is why people say they're tired of being angry but don't know how to stop. Because they have never been taught how to grieve properly. They've never been given permission to mourn lost meaning, lost trust, lost futures, lost moral clarity. So anger becomes the default. And here is the truth that rarely gets said. Anger feels permanent when the loss underneath it is never addressed. But when grief is named, anger softens. Not immediately, not magically, but gradually. Because grief tells the truth. It says, something mattered. Something was lost. And that loss deserves to be honored. Until people are allowed to say that out loud, anger will keep finding places to land. Not because people are hateful, but because they are hurt in ways they don't have language for. Now, this isn't a moral failure, it's an emotional one. And emotional failures can be repaired, but only after they are named. Why people feel lost? Most people think they feel lost because they made the wrong choices. They think they have looked or took a wrong turn. They think they have missed something. They think other people figured life out and they somehow failed. But that's not what's happening. People don't feel lost because they lack intelligence. They don't feel lost because they lack effort. They feel lost because the world stopped making sense in the way they were taught it would. Human beings need a story to orient themselves, not a fantasy, a framework, something that answers basic questions. What is worth pursuing? What is worth sacrificing for? What does a good life look like? How do I know if I am doing well? For a long time, those questions had shared answers. Not perfect answers, but stable ones. Work mattered, family mattered, faith mattered, character mattered, responsibility mattered. Even when life was hard, it was intelligible. You knew what direction you were walking in. Now that framework has collapsed. Not replaced, collapsed. People are told they can be anything, do anything, believe anything, value anything. That sounds like freedom. But without a shared structure, it becomes paralysis. Because when everything is optional, nothing feels solid. When every value is relative, no value feels worth defending. When every path is valid, no path feels meaningful. So people drift. They move from job to job, from relationship to relationship, from belief to belief, from identity to identity. Not because they are curious, but because they unanchored. That is what it feels like to be lost. Not confusion, disorientation, like standing in the middle of a city with no map and no destination. And here is the quiet cruelty of modern life. People are told this disorientation is liberation. They are told not needing meaning is maturity. They are told commitment is limitation. They are told ruthlessness is sophistication. But the human soul doesn't work that way. We are meaning-seeking creatures. We don't just want options. We want direction. We don't just want freedom. We want purpose. And when purpose disappears, anxiety takes its place. Because anxiety is what fills the vacuum when meaning collapses. This is why people feel restless even when nothing is wrong. This is why people feel behind even when they're accomplishing things. This is why success feels hollow. This is why pleasure feels thin. This is why distraction never satisfies. Because none of those things answer the deeper question. Why am I doing this? And without an answer, life becomes a series of motions without orientation. People begin to chase intensity instead of meaning, novelty instead of depth, attention instead of integrity, because intensity creates a temporary feeling of being alive, but it fades quickly. Meaning doesn't fade that way. It sustains. And here's the part most people feel but can't articulate. They're not lost because they lack direction. They are lost because the directions they were given no longer lead anywhere. The promises didn't hold. The institutions didn't protect. The narratives didn't deliver. So people are left holding questions with no shared answers. And a person can survive poverty. They can survive hardship. They can survive suffering. But they cannot survive life without meaning. That's not weakness. That is human design. Until people are offered a story that makes sense again, they will keep drifting. Not because they want chaos, but because they're searching for something solid to stand on. And that search is what you're feeling when you say you feel lost. The lie of just be happy. At some point, a very shallow idea was sold as wisdom. The idea that the solution to feeling lost, tired, or angry is simply to be happy. Be positive. Focus on the good. Don't dwell on negativity. Choose joy. It sounds harmless, even kind, but for many people, it has become a form of quiet cruelty because it turns real suffering into a personal failure. If you are not happy, the implication is that you are doing something wrong. You're not grateful enough. You're not optimistic enough. You are not trying hard enough. But happiness was never meant to carry the weight we have placed on it. Happiness is a byproduct, not a foundation. It emerges naturally when life is ordered around meaning, truth, and responsibility. It cannot be manufactured on command, and it cannot survive in an environment that feels empty or dishonest. Telling people to just be happy when their lives feel unstable is like telling someone to smile while standing on broken ground. It doesn't fix the ground. It just teaches them to hide their pain. This is why so many people feel guilty for feeling bad. They think something is wrong with them for not enjoying life the way they're told they should. So they suppress. They distract. They perform cheerfulness. But suppressed pain doesn't disappear, or it goes underground. And underground pain comes back as anxiety, resentment, numbness, or sudden rage. A healthy soul doesn't demand happiness. It seeks honesty. It asks, what is true? What is meaningful? What is worth committing to? Happiness follows these answers. It cannot replace them. This is why the happiest moments in life are rarely planned. They arrive unexpectedly when you are doing something that feels real. Building, serving, creating, loving, enduring something difficult for a reason you believe in. Joy is often quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It settles. And here's the truth that frees people from shame. You are not falling or failing at happiness. You are responding normally to a world that often feels hollow, contradictory, and disordered. The solution is not to force happiness. It is to rebuild meaning. Happiness will come later. The theft of future and hope. There is a kind of pain that doesn't come from the past. It comes from the future. From realizing that the future you were preparing for may never arrive. Most people don't talk about this, but they feel it. They feel it when effort no longer leads to security. They feel it when work no longer builds toward stability. They feel it when institutions stop keeping their promises. They feel it when the future feels smaller than the past. Human beings can survive extraordinary hardships if they believe it is temporary. If they believe something better is coming. Hope is not optimism. Hope is orientation. It is the belief that tomorrow is worth preparing for. When that belief weakens, people begin to unravel quietly. They stop planning. They stop committing. They stop investing in long-term things. Marriage feels risky. Children feel impossible. Careers feel fragile. Sacrifice feels foolish. Why build something you don't trust will last? Why commit to a future you don't believe in? This is not immaturity. It is a rational despair. A generation raised on promises that were never kept will struggle to believe new ones. They were told, if you work hard, you will be secure. If you follow the rules, you will be rewarded. If you do the right things, life will make sense. And then the rules change. The goalpost, they moved. The ground, it shifted. And people were told to adapt quietly, not to complain, not to expect too much, not to hope loudly, but hope cannot be commanded away. When hope disappears, something else takes its place. Cynicism, detachment, short-term thinking, living only for distraction, living only for pleasure, living only for survival. This is why so many people say they don't see the point anymore. They don't mean life itself is pointless. They mean the future no longer feels trustworthy. And here's the quiet truth almost no one says aloud. You were not meant to live without a future you believe in. You were not designed to exist only in the present, chasing relief. You were designed to build, to invest, to plant seeds you might never see fully grow. Hope is what makes that possible. Without it, people shrink their lives. They avoid risk. They avoid responsibility. They avoid commitment, not because they are selfish, but because disappointment has taught them to protect themselves. This is the theft no one names. Not money, not comfort, but future. When a society steals hope, it doesn't collapse immediately. It slowly decays, slowly, quietly. People disengage. They stop believing in shared projects. They stop trusting one another. They stop imagining something better. And when imagination dies, so does courage. But here's the part that still matters. Hope can be rebuilt. Not by slogans, not by promises, but by truth, by stability, by meaning, by lives that make sense again. And that rebuilding always begins small. Inside individuals who refuse to surrender their future completely. What a healthy soul actually needs. After everything we've named, there's an obvious question. What does a healthy soul actually need? Not what distracts it, not what entertains it, not what numbs it, what sustains it. The answer is not complicated, but it is demanding. A healthy soul needs meaning, not abstract meaning, concrete meaning, something worth committing to even when it's hard, something worth sacrificing for even when no one is watching. A healthy soul needs truth, not comforting lies, not slogans, not narratives designed to sell. Truth even when it's inconvenient, because lies create confusion and confusion exhausts the soul. A healthy soul needs responsibility, not because responsibility is easy, not because responsibility gives weight to your actions. It tells you that what you do matters, that your choices are not meaningless, that you are not interchangeable. A healthy soul needs limits. That is the part modern culture resists. But limits create shape. They create focus. They create depth. Without limits, life spreads thin and loses substance. A healthy soul needs belonging. Not mass approval, not digital attention, but real connection. People who know your name, people who notice when you are gone, people who expect something from you. Belonging anchors identity. Without it, people drift. A healthy soul needs order, not rigidity, but structure, rhythm, predictability, because chaos is exciting at first and corrosive over time. Order calms the nervous system. It tells your body that it is safe to rest. A healthy soul also needs hope. Not naive hope, earned hope. Hope that comes from seeing that effort leads somewhere. That honesty matters. That goodness has weight. And finally, a healthy soul needs permission to be serious about life again. To stop pretending everything is ironic. To stop treating commitment like foolishness. To stop apologizing for wanting a life that makes sense. Many people are not broken, they are starving. Starving for meaning, starving for truth, starving for structure, starving for something solid to build their lives on. And no amount of entertainment will ever satisfy that hunger. Only a life ordered around what truly matters can. That kind of life is not flashy. It does not trend. It does not perform well online. But it produces something rare. Stability, clarity, strength. And from that strength, everything else can grow. The final centering moment. Take a breath. Not to calm yourself, just to be here. Right now, you are not failing. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are responding normally to a world that has become disordered. Feeling tired does not mean you are weak. Feeling angry does not mean you are cruel. Feeling lost does not mean you are defective. It means you still care. It means something inside you has not gone numb. And that matters. The world will keep telling you to distract yourself, to stay busy, to stop thinking so much. But clarity does not come from distraction. It comes from honesty, from facing what is real, from refusing to lie to yourself about what matters. You do not need to have everything figured out. You only need one thing to stand on, one truth you will not abandon, one responsibility you will carry, one direction you are willing to walk even when it's difficult. This is how people rebuild themselves, not all at once, but deliberately, quietly, one honest step at a time. Thank you for staying with this.